My manager was looking after a lot of the Kenyans at the time, and they would just eat, sleep, train. How can you be better than that person by 0.5%, 2%, and that's what it takes. You know, I saw life ahead of me. I went to uni, you live life, and it's a balance, right? So again, like going to uni, had a laugh with my friends, just lived the life. And at some point I got to question myself going, you know what, how am I going to make it if I'm living like this, staying out late nights, eating okay, not sensible, as you said, like, you know. And at that point, I think that's when I saw the Kenyans, and the Kenyans were training. My manager was looking after a lot of the Kenyans at the time. And they would come down in the summer and base themselves in Teddington. And at that point, I would see them on my bike and me running around. And I was just like, oh my God, they look so good. And then later on realizing, listen, my manager said to me, why don't you just train with them for a bit? And I jumped with them training, and I could keep up certain sessions, but not all the time. Because, as I said, they were that good. And then when I finished uni, not that I finished my degree, but when I finished...
You had fun though, you said that.
When I finished my uni there, my manager was like, you know what, why don't you just live with them and see how you get on with them? And I lived with them in the same house. And they would just eat, sleep, train, eat, sleep, train. And there's me going out with the lads at night, playing PlayStation and staying up. And then I question myself, and you go think, you know what, how am I going to beat these guys if that's all they're doing? And then at that point I was like, you know what, I'm going to do the same thing as them. And then I'm going to, you know, try and like cut out everything, cut out a lot of the stuff. And I lived with them, and that's the best experience I ever had. And then at the same time afterwards, I went out to Kenya in the Rift Valley, up in the mountains, about 8,000 feet above sea level. And they're doing exactly the same thing. And at that point, I just started observing what they're doing and trying like just live like them.
Mm-hmm. Did you feel at the time that you were making a significant sacrifice in your life, or did it just feel like the right thing to do?
It felt like it was the right thing to do, because again, I was looking at my friends, stuff. They were all like, you know, they're finishing their degree, they're going to get, you know, they got education behind them, they were going to get decent job. And at that point, I was like, you know what, I ain't done degree here. I'm not even. What job am I going to have? And at that point, I was just like, you know what, I need to take this serious.
You've said before that if you know, when times are rough in a particular race, or when you're really pushing yourself through that, you know, almost breaking point, that if you had listened to your body, you would never have won anything. You know, as a runner myself, obviously nowhere near your level, I experienced pushing through pain to try and get to where you said you were going to go, you know, or whatever the plan might be. And I have my kind of coping mechanisms for whatever that might be, or natural places that I drift to. I'm curious as to what goes through your mind. What do you think of? How do you get really jacked up? How do you stay in the race?
Yeah, it's important. As I said, you've got to find that. And I said, listen, there's so many people out there who runs, you know, if I compare my competitors, but it's the ones, how do you win that medals? How do you go? How can you be better than that person by 0.5%, 2%? And that's what it takes. And I always tell myself, when you're struggling, you always got more than what you think you have. Your mind will say to you, nah, can't do it. But you got to override it. You've got to overcome it. And at the same time, you know, just keep going, keep pushing. And what I do often, even in a race, if I'm hurting, I try and think about my opposition, think about what they're doing, what I need to do. And I question myself a lot of times. I'll never forget my physio guy who used to look after me, who's head of British Athletics at the time. He was my physio as well as, you know, someone, you know, he saw me throughout my childhood. And he would come out now and then. We'll be in a training camp. And I had a really bad race. And at that point, you know, when you have a bad race, you're like, you know what, I could have done better. And then the following week, we were in training camp and I was doing a long run. And he knew what I was going to do. But on that long run, I was burying myself. Because I'm like, I'm testing myself. I'm going to hurt myself. And to that point, I'm asking him, it's like, later on when we finish, it's like, I'm in bits because you push yourself. And then he's like, and I said, how was I looking? Was I looking all right? And he's like, yeah, what time? Do you think that they can run these times? Why I just run in training? Do you think my oppositions are doing that? It's almost like you got to, and I think you've got to have that mindset. Often, even in races, when you have a bad race, a good race, it's important for you to be honest with yourself.
We are absolutely thrilled to be partnering with Whoop here at Untapped. Whoop has changed the game when it comes to wearable technology and health monitoring. Whoop is a wearable health and fitness coach that provides you with feedback and actionable insights into your sleep, recovery, training, stress, and overall health, and it empowers you to be the best version of yourself.
So you actually got me on Whoop. You text me. It was the first time I'd heard from you for a while, and you said, "Are you on Whoop?" That was it.
Yeah.
And I was like, "No."
Well, you had to be in order to be the co-host.
Yeah. So I got on Whoop, and I was very surprised with how great it is.
It's amazing.
Tracks my sleep. Input. I love the strength trainer input that you can actually put in how much you're lifting, and it works out your heart rate better. The sleep is very important. I don't get that much sleep, but it tells me how I am feeling after.
If you're interested in taking control of your health and fitness so that you can excel in all aspects of your life, you have to go and check out Whoop. Go to join.whoop.com/untapped to try Whoop for free for 30 days.
Woo.
That is quite the deal. And now let's get back to Sir Mo Farah.
Like at the time, we can make excuses. Tactically, I got it wrong. Oh, it just wasn't my day. It's that. But I think when you get in your mind, it's deep, then you know what went wrong and how you can fix it. Honestly, as I said, there's many races you've done, and as an athlete, often, sometimes you get things wrong or right, and it's been more than once where, tactically I got it wrong in the race. Tactically means, every athlete has certain things, strength and weakness. So you have to work out what your strength is and what their weakness is. And the more you understand about the other athletes, then you know how to approach. So, for example, like when we went to the World Championship in Daegu, where I was favourite to win the 10,000 and favourite to win the 5,000, I went in at 10,000 metres, should have won, but tactically got it wrong, completely wrong, because all the people I was racing, I knew what they were capable of and who's going to be there and what I need to do in a race and try and win the race. And there was one guy called Jaylan from Ethiopia, and he hasn't raced all year, and that's the first time I'm racing him. And I remember didn't think of anything of him. Went out to front, pushed on, and got rid of the few of the guys who were with me that I thought was gonna, as long as I can push early on, I knew I can beat him and have the best chance. But this guy just had I had about 5-6 meter gap, and going to the last lap, the bell rings, he's there, I've got a good gap, and then comes probably about 300 meters to go, he's closing the gap, and then last 200 meters, he's right on my shoulders, and then the home straight, I look to my left, and he's right there, and I'm like, oh, start to just panic a little bit, and then towards the line, I drive to the line, and he just comes on my shoulder, overtakes me, wins the race.
If you'd have known that about him, how would your tactics have changed?
Exactly. So if I knew what he is capable of, I would have gone early on. Okay. So in the race, I would have gone instead of going 500 meters to go, I would have gone 800 meters to go and just test him a little bit, push on. And then right at the end, maybe I'll be on his shoulder, because it's far more easier when you're on the shoulder of someone to go than you having someone. That's why often you saw me on the inside of the track hugging the curb. Yeah. Because you know why? Want to run the shortest possible.
Way. Does it block you from wind resistance as well, being behind someone? Do you get that kind of a little bit of a boost?
Yeah, you do get wind, and often if it's that's why they have the rabbit, the pacemakers. So the pacemaker's there to make as easy as possible. So often when it's windy,
so they're blocking it off.
They're blocking off, and also times are always down when it's windy, rainy, and stuff.